Welcome to the Meredith Patterson podcast. Here is your host, Meredith Patterson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Meredith Patterson podcast. I'm your host, Meredith, and today we are doing part 2 of my conversation with Huey Lewis, an incredible icon, an incredible man. And if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, please go back and start there, because today we're going to dive even deeper. In this episode, Huey's going to talk about Montana. We're going to talk about his passion for Broadway, performing on Broadway, his passion for fly fishing, conservation, and so many other things, and how he has remained resilient and positive in the face of his hearing loss. So, of course, we will also go to the end where I always talk about my vision for what you want and being grateful for where you are. And Huey will also say what he's grateful for and what his vision for the future is. So, without further ado, let's continue my conversation with the amazing Huey Lewis. Welcome back, Huey. We're going to talk today a little bit about, we're going to continue our conversation and talk about Montana, because you and I have a little bit in common, but we also have in common not only Northern Californians, dad drummers, all the things, but we both live in Montana, which is
right.
who knew? I mean, when you made your first big paycheck, you bought 500 acres in Montana. Why Montana?
No, that's not quite true.
Oh,
But it's close.
it's close.
When I first, I obviously I turned 30 years old with $300 to my name, but I had a hit record. I had a record in the charts. And so then I finally made some money and blah, blah, blah. And my first thing I do with money, I got introduced to these financial people who were going to invest in something called limited partnerships. And there were condos or something, and you give them, wasn't a lot of money, but it was a lot of money for me. I mean, I don't know if it was more, I don't know, $25,000 or something. It was a lot of money. It was first money I'd made, and then they invested in this fund that's this limited partnerships, so you get a tax break, and then after you take your tax break, they sell it, and then you get your money back. So it was a win-win, right, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, no sooner do I invest in this thing than they disallow the tax break, and now the condos aren't worth anything, and there's no buyers, and we lose our money. And I thought, to myself, jeez, that's horrible. I could have. I said, you know what? Enough of this money investing thing. I'm just going to buy a piece of ground in Montana. Always been a fly fisherman, and I'd been to Montana a couple times, and I loved it, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's kind of how that started for me,
And
People
that just
say, why
came.
Montana? And I always say, more cheese, less rats.
Yeah, why not Northern California? I was wondering, you could have bought next to the Skywalker Ranch or something.
Well, yeah, I'm afraid I didn't have enough hits to buy Skywalker Ranch, but no. Interestingly, Montana's a lot like Marin County used to be. I mean, we have, especially where you are in Whitefish, right?
Yeah.
You're
I
in
say that
Whitefish.
all the time. It reminds me a lot about, and a lot of the people here in Montana are very, very protective of wanting to keep it this way. And I said, I remember Northern California. It was farm country. It was, I'm fifth generation Northern Californian, and my dad still talks about, how it used to be and how there were walnut groves in the East Bay and Walnut Creek and Concord and Pleasant Hill,
Right.
where I'm from. Very, very different than what it is now. And so when I first came to Whitefish and my dad came to Whitefish, he said, "Oh, this is Pleasant Hill 40 years ago."
That's exactly right. Your dad is
Yeah.
exactly right. And we've watched it here in the Bitterroot where I live. Subdivision, boom, this is going to be Petaluma.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong. And so, but you've lived in
There's
Montana.
too many of us.
It's too
Too many.
many of us. And
Yeah.
I know we all want to live in some place that's beautiful like Montana and have some space. And I feel like maybe that was why you moved to Montana to not be in a big city and be constantly around the rat race, if you will, it was a nice escape, right?
I spend so much less time in my car. No, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, when I first was here in Montana, and I schedule like a day. I mean, do my errands. I got to go to the bank. I got to go to the cleaners. I got to go to the windshield place, and I got to do it. So I figured it all out. So I leave here at this time, allow this amount of time for travel, and then I'll be there for 20 minutes. I make my appointments, and I'm early to everything. And
Yeah.
there's tons of parking. And you go to the bank and you park in front of the bank and you walk in and there's nobody there. There's food tellers and nobody there. That's fantastic.
It's true. And sometimes in the summer here in Whitefish, it gets a little crowded and everybody goes, oh, there's so much traffic. I can't get everywhere in 10 minutes. And it's kind of funny because, Northern California, you're in your car a lot. Now, going back to Northern California, because you and I also share a love of football as well as baseball. And thank God, I think I know the answer to these questions. 49ers or Raiders?
Well, I'm a 49er guy.
Thank you so much.
Although Pete Carroll's coaching the Raiders now. And
Yeah, the Raiders
went to
are, yeah,
Pete Carroll's from Tiburon, California. He went to
true.
Redwood High School.
And now Tom Brady is a co-owner of the Raiders, and he's a Northern California guy.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's all,
And our other hometown hero is Jared Goff
yep,
from Marin Catholic.
yep. So Joe Montana or Steve Young?
Well, that's that. Both of those guys are great, but I've known Joe forever, so I mean, there's no or there, and or, and Steve Young is a class act and a good guy. I still talk to Joe occasionally. We fish together once in a while, and he's a fly fisherman and kind of an outdoorsy guy and a really really good guy
He
uh,
comes to Whitefish. I know,
that's right.
actually,
Yes, he does.
DeBartolo, my husband and I were out for my husband's birthday dinner, and DeBartolo bought our dinner. He just walked by and bought our dinner. And I just lost my mind because I'm like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
also, Joe Montana was in the airport, and when my dad was flying home, he texted me and said, I just met Joe Montana. So, the 49ers are around us here in Montana. Lovely. I love, and I know Jerry Rice is one of my favorites. That's my throwback jersey that I wear. But Dwight Clark, of course, was the greatest as well.
Dwight, we lost Dwight, but he lives in Whitefish there towards the end of his life, which is so
Yeah.
we visited a little bit. Yeah, and Eddie's does wonderful things. They have reunions all the time. Eddie has a July 4th party that's legendary, as you know about.
Yeah,
And
I've heard about it. I've never been invited. So if you're ever
yeah,
here and I get to go, that would be amazing. I mean, I've heard Jerry Rice was at Safeway here, and so I thought I was going to lose my mind. If I run into any Niner, I probably will will lose my mind. Well, going into now Broadway, which is how we started our conversation. Was it ever your goal to star on Broadway?
never. I grew up in San Francisco. I'm a kind of a rock and roller. I'm an R&B guy. I know nothing for Broadway. And now they ask me, I get an offer to do um, Chicago on Broadway, play Billy Flynn. And I think, yeah, right, sure. How am I going to, I can't do that. That's way over my head. But my son was going to NYU at the time, and I was on my way to visit him anyway. So I told them, I'll tell you what, give me a couple of tickets and let me see the show, and maybe, we'll see, kind of thing, because I'd never seen the show.
Yeah.
And so I took my son, and we saw the show. I was knocked out by the show, completely knocked out by the show. And I also additionally thought, you know what? I could almost do that. I mean, I think I could do that. And you know what? I'm just I won't forget myself unless I try. Austin, what do you think? I asked my kid. He goes, go for it, Dad. I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." And so, yeah, hence my love affair with Broadway. I was Billy Flynn number 31. I suggested that when we wear the tuxedos, that everybody have a number. You get a number for your Billy.
Okay. Nice.
Instead of the carnation, put a
Put
31
a
there.
number. Put a
But
number. Well, I'm
but
sure you were brilliant. I really wish I would have seen you play that role.
oh, I had so much fun, man. I just loved it. And it's it's its own thing. I mean, let I've said this many times, but I truly believe that because musical theater is so demanding, it's also the most rewarding of
Hmm.
all forms of artistic expression. I really believe that the Broadway, Broadway artists sing, dance, act. It's fantastic, and it's so collaborative that it make that you have to be a team member to do this well. You can't be out just for yourself in this business, or it just doesn't work out. And by the way, it's not enough to be good in a show. If you're going to have a hit show, you not only have to be good, you have to make everybody else good as well. And when you
Yeah.
have a whole company like that, that's when the shows take off. So it's just an amazing thing when, and it just, and the people, it finally ends up being the people, doesn't it? And I've met some of the most generous, artistic, smart, funny, lovable people in my life on Broadway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It really is that camaraderie, but also that team. You said it, it's the team effort. It's kind of going back to you in the news. Like you guys have that kind of vibe. And Broadway is a very close-knit community. And when you're doing 8 shows a week, you get really close and you also are really, yeah, your chemistry and lifting the show up is really your goal. What was it like to perform 8 shows a week? Did you find that extremely difficult? Did you think it was
Once you get it right, once it's in part of you, it's a lot. The learning process is tough. You rehearse and of course, if you go into a show like Chicago, you don't get much.
Yeah,
The
it's true.
I mean, the dance captain puts you in the show. I had a drive by from Walter Bobby. We had 1 hour, me and Charlotte D'Amboise for like an hour and a half.
Oh my
We just
gosh.
went through RCs, and that was that. And so, um, and then when you open, oh my God, you have tunnel vision. It's the first time they put you in the show. It's the first time with lights. It's the first time with a band. It's the first time with, it's just crazy wardrobe. It's a first, it's crazy, crazy. But once you get the show, once it's part of you, it's not only, it's, first of all, it's the most fun thing in the world, and it's a piece of cake, easy pie, especially Billy Flynn. He only sings 3 songs. It's not a big deal. I mean, my show is way more difficult than playing Billy Flynn.
Yeah, so yeah,
It's a vehicle it's not easy to be in Roxy, in Chicago. It's a tough track.
yeah, Charlotte D'Amboise is one of my idols, and I've never gotten to play Roxy, but that's a dream part for so many people. Roxy, Velma. But Billy Flynn, you have to have all those girls around you and all that stuff. I'm sure the first time you did that was, yes, like a little out of body experience because you're jumping into a well-oiled machine that's been on Broadway for a long time. But let's talk about the fact that I mean, I know you're going to go down in history for many things, but you had 2 musicals on Broadway at the same time with your music, Harder Rock and Roll, but also Back to the Future. Did you ever think that would have happened?
No, of course not. Crazy. And the crazy thing about that is the two theaters are pretty close. They're just around the corner from one another. And and Back to the Future, Power of Love is their finale. And in our show, it's also the finale. Now, our show was, I think, 5 minutes shorter than their show. But if we go on late, 5 minutes late, and they go on 5 minutes early, sometimes it's it's probable not only possible, but it's probable that Power of Love is playing in two different theaters at the exact same time.
That's incredible. I never thought about that. That's amazing. I mean, that's just, it must be such an out of body experience. You should go to New York and take a picture of yourself. I know that Harder Rock and Roll is not running anymore. It was on Broadway for a short amount of time, but is it gonna go on tour?
Yeah, we're gonna put it on tour, but that we're so proud of that show, and so sad that it's still not up on Broadway because we think it's the quintessential '80s show, and we worked on it for a decade, and it was really a salvation for me. I lost my hearing, so I can't perform, but I
Yeah.
can, but I can still slowly boom. And of course, they had to make me a producer because it's the music. So now I'm a producer, and now I get to, comment on everything from choreography to the writing to the jokes to everything. And so I just drowned myself in it, and it was just such a wonderful experience. And and here now we have a what let's face it, it's a jukebox musical, and that nobody's rooting for a jukebox musicals anyway, let alone jukebox musicals from Huey Lewis and not, I'm not Bono or Bob Dylan, and yet we got amazing reviews, and the show should have been a big hit. And I think so now, and people loved it, and I think we're going to go up in Britain here, hopefully in Manchester outside, and next year, and then we're going to tour America the year after that, and it certainly will have a life. But what I would hope is that, you know, who knows? I mean, it's got to still resonate, but I think it will. I'd love to bring it back to Broadway one day. Much in the same, I mean, Chicago only ran for like a year and a half.
That's
And
true. And I think
the revival's been up for 27 years. So,
it's so true. And I think that the reviews that you got are indicative of what people thought of it. I think sometimes Broadway's corporate, so you never know. Some shows that are amazing don't run. Some shows that, are not so amazing run longer. And so you never know with that business side of it. That's kind of like nobody has the formula. But it's, to me, the reviews and everybody loves you. Everyone loves your music. I mean, really and truly, I was kind of sad because I'm going to go to New York that I didn't get to see it. But now to know it's going to be on tour, I think that's incredible. And it will have a life, and we can revive. It could be revived. You never know what could happen in the future. You mentioned about your Meniere's disease and having that hearing loss, which I know has been kind of ongoing because I think you lost your right ear early on, and then now it's your left one, from what I've heard. Do you have, how do you stay positive with that
no,
diagnosis?
I mean, I have I'm still a lucky guy. Let's face it, you have to remind yourself there's lots of people worse off than you are. And in my case, that's exceptionally true. I still have a wonderful life. It's not quite as good as it was when I could hear and sing, but it's still fine. And you just have to, yeah, and you can get used to almost anything. I mean, look at what people live with anymore. So, you can't, you just got to get on with life. I have, fortunately, I picked the right time to be deaf. I mean, I have a cochlear implant here on my left side, and
Yeah.
I have a compatible hearing aid on my right side, and they both move together, and so that I'm streaming right now. So when you talk, I hear it boom, wall to wall, and it goes through my computer, through my TV, through my phone. It all goes right straight here, and so that enables me to talk on the phone and watch TV and do everything just like I could before. Now it just acoustically in a situation, I struggle, but now that I have the cochlear implant, I can talk to maybe four people, not just two.
Okay.
So
Is the cochlear implant ever possible to have you sing again,
probably
perform
not.
again?
I mean, I can sing to myself, and stay in tune and everything right here, but I can't. sing to anything because I can't hear pitch. The cochlear alters things a little bit. Voices sound a little funny, and by the same token, it does something to the pitch, so it's impossible to hear it. It's
Yeah.
very frustrating. It's very strange. If I could start off in a key, could I? I don't know. Mind you, it's slightly better since I got the cochlear, which
Yeah,
is
because you just got the cochlear
April 1. April
in
1.
April. Yeah.
So it's been 4 months, and they say it keeps increasing for a year. And I've noticed it gradually improving, honestly. But I'm kind of scared to try music yet, but I'm not giving up.
Well, we don't want you to give up because we want to hear, even if it's a, acoustic Huey, we could do a acoustic Huey, Huey Lewis in the news or
Acoustic.
whatever. If it's just four of you, I don't know. We could figure it out. So you're not performing or singing, but I know that you've done some speaker series. You've been, giving advice. Beyond your Broadway shows and all the incredible things you've done, is there anything you still want to do that you haven't accomplished?
Well, yeah, I mean, we actually have a TV show that I've been working on forever. And I don't know that it's ever gonna happen or not, uh, but we sold it to Fox. We sold the idea to Fox, and we're in development, as it were. Although I've been this far before, So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a Hollywood. Hollywood is yes means maybe in Hollywood, So you really got to be careful. But it's a comedy. It's called Whatever Happened to Huey Lewis, and um, and it's kind of a real life mockumentary, as it were, and pretty funny. And my pal Jimmy Kimmel's producing with Aaron Kaplan, who's a really wonderful guy and a really great producer. And so, we'll see. But it keeps me busy a little bit creatively, and that's fun.
I think that is, I think that would be amazing. I would watch it. I would, I think whatever happened to Huey Lewis, you're here. You're still doing so many things. You still, even with any sort of bumps in the road, you're still producing, you're doing Broadway shows. I mean, it's just incredible. So the way that I always close this podcast is I say, have vision for what you want, but be grateful for where you are every single day, because that's kind of how I start my days. So what is the vision for what you still want in life, and what are you grateful for?
Well, I'm grateful for all the wonderful gifts I've had in my life. I've set goals for myself early, and I've long surpassed all of my goals. So the hardest part is, what do I still want? And uh, um, I find it's going to sound silly, but I find conservation, because I'm an outdoors guy. I fly fish, and I love the outdoors, and so I still want I want to further this idea of saving the planet. I think it's become more and more important every minute with climate change and all that stuff. And I really think it's the most important thing. You can change tax structure, and you can change all this stuff, and then you change policies and all this. But when you damage the planet, it's really hard to recover. And it's so much better to protect. It's so much easier to protect than it is to regrow. So I find what I want for I want better consciousness amongst us all for the planet.
That's exactly what I want as well. So I hope that happens very soon because we need it. And thank you just for everything that you have done, all the ripple effect of positivity you've put into the world with your music and just you as a person. It is a pleasure to know you in a little capacity and get to know you better with this interview. So thank you so much, Huey, for being here.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. Didn't hurt a bit.
What an incredible conversation with a true icon. I am just so incredibly grateful to Huey Lewis for sharing his time with me, his wisdom with all of us, his heart, and just giving of himself. If this interview inspired you as much as it did me, please share it with someone you love and subscribe and leave a review. It's the best way to support this podcast and keep these kind of conversations going. And as always, everybody, remember, bliss is your birthright, and have vision for what you want, but be grateful for where you are every single day. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.